Hello, everybody. Today I want to go over a poem in the first few textbook, uh, which is called "Do Not Ask of Me My Love" by the poet Faiz Ahmed Faiz. So this is one day after Valentine's Day in 2025. So, this poem speaks about how the poet had fallen in love with a girl, with a woman, but as time passed, the intensity of love played its course. It decreased in intensity, and the poet, when he writes this poem, has fallen out of love. So that is the title of the poem, "Do Not Ask of Me My Love." So the poet had fallen in love, but now he is fallen out of love. So we'll read the poem. It says, "Do not ask of me, my love, that love I once had for you." So, as I said, the poet says that he once had a deep, intense, passionate, strong feeling of love for the beloved, but now he asks her not to wish that he could, look at her look at her with the same passion that he once used to look at her. So, in the next stanza, the poet describes how it was, how life was when he was in love. So he says, there was a time when life was bright and young and blooming, and your sorrow was much more than any other pain. And so there was a time when he was younger, when he had fallen in love, and that feeling of love had, it had tinged life. It had painted his life in bright colors. Life was bright, and the poet and his beloved, they were young, and life was blooming like a flower. And the beloved was the center of the poet's life. He was the center on which his life turned. And if she felt any sorrow, if she felt any hurt, whether small or not so small, if she felt any sorrow, that sorrow could not be borne by the poet. Her sorrow was much more than any other pain. So he could not bear to see her unhappy even for a single moment. And he describes what she was like. She is like, he says, your beauty gave the spring everlasting youth. Your eyes, yes, your eyes were everything. All else was vain. So the beauty of the beloved gave the poet everlasting youth. He felt he could be young forever. And it was the spring season of their life, right? When they're probably in their teenage, and when teenage, or when they just met, Vasantamasa, that is what they say in Kannada, Vasantamasa, the spring season. So when the poet was with his beloved, he used to gaze into her eyes and he used to lose himself, in the depths and in the shadows, and he would be captivated, and he would be lost in her. So all else was vain. Whatever went on in life, whatever happened, all else was of no consequence, all else was vain. While you were with me, I thought the world was mine, though now I know that it was an illusion. So while the poet was with his beloved, he felt that the world belonged to him. He was king of the world, so to speak. And, you know, and now that he has fallen out of love, he says that that feeling, that frame of mind was an illusion. That's the way I imagined it to be. So he knows that it was an illusion, but that's how he really felt. For there are other sorrows in the world than love, and other pleasures too. So he says that there are other things to be experienced in life. There are other sorrows in the world than love. So, how is love a sorrow? There is a saying uh, which goes, uh, which says, all love is sad, but sad as it is the greatest thing we know. So, love is bittersweet. Love is bittersweet chocolate. So, the emotion of love, it's a bittersweet emotion, and there are other sorrows in the world than love, as well as there are other pleasures too. There are other pleasures apart, you know, apart from love. So the poet says again, do not ask of me, my love, that love I once had for you. He repeats the refrain of the poem. See, it is the poet is aware that it cannot be commanded. The emotion of love. Either you are in love or you are not. Okay, so it is not something to be willed. It's not something to be commanded. It comes and goes according to its own whims and fancies. So it's not something that is in his control. And now that he cannot help falling out of love, he requests his beloved, do not ask of him the love that he once had for her. So next he describes the sorrows, the other sorrows, and he says, woven in silk and satin and brocade, those dark and brutal curses of countless centuries. So he sees people and they're wearing silk. Silk is an expensive material. They're wearing silk, satin, and brocade. So silk, satin, and brocade are very costly materials, and people who wear them are rich. But these materials, these costly materials, have been obtained at great expense. So he says, in the world there are dark and brutal curses of countless centuries. Countless centuries. Almost since civilization began, there have been dark and cruel curses which have bedeviled mankind. What are these dark and brutal curses which have always existed in civilization? They are bodies bathed in blood. So wars have, occurred periodically throughout human history. So in wars, bodies will be bathed in blood, and there are bodies which are smeared with dust. Smeared means rubbed, and this is a description of poverty, how people are actually living in miserable conditions, and they their bodies are smeared with dust, sold from marketplace to marketplace. There are people who are sold like cattle, human trafficking, whether it's children, women, men, slaves, and so on and so forth, human trafficking, sold from marketplace to marketplace. Bodies risen from the cauldron of diseases. So if you go to a hospital, you see these scenes where people have been overcome by innumerable diseases. Their bodies are like a cauldron, a huge vessel in which one disease after another infects them, and they recover, their bodies recover, their bodies risen from the cauldron of diseases. But they are, like skeletal, and they're gaunt, and really, uh, really, it's something miserable to see. There are bodies risen from the cauldron of diseases, pus dripping from their festering sores. So, pus, that is in Kannada you call it kivu. And this pus, because it was untreated, medical technology was not so developed. Untreated wounds, cuts, bruises, they fester, and pus drips from them. So once he's fallen out of love, he sees all these, and he says, "My eyes must also turn to these." So, nevertheless, he has fond memories of the happiness he once shared with his beloved. So he he you know he reminds her. He says, you're beautiful still, my love, but I am helpless too." So he cannot help, falling out of love, and he repeats the refrain, "For there are other sorrows in the world than love, and other pleasures too." So finally, he ends with the chorus, "Do not ask of me, my love, that love I once had for you." So this is the poem, "Do Not Ask of Me, My Love," by the poet Faiz Ahmed Faiz. Thank you.